guys, so today on Behind the Screen, we are going to be talking about closing chapters, ending campaigns, finishing story arcs. We're talking about the end. What happens when you get to the end of your role-playing game? So the reason that I want to talk about this today is this past weekend I had the opportunity to play in a game that officially came to an end. It's actually the first time I've finished a game. We have been playing Pathfinder with our friends Emily and Will and a few others for, I don't know, a few months now. And we knew when we started that it was going to be a fairly short campaign, maybe 6 or 7 sessions. So part of it was that was what Will had intended for the story arc. So we knew that going in. And then, you know, this is a prequel for his major campaign, which should be starting sometime next year. And the things that we did in our campaign play into what will happen in the main story arc. So this was a very consolidated opportunity for us to play different characters. And in some ways it didn't really matter about our characters because we would only be with them for a couple sessions. All of that being said, it was still a very emotional ending. So coming to that ending, we were presented with a fairly overarching story issue, which was we were trying to find these gems and stop the world from being destroyed. And so we were basically, there was a big twist. I don't want to give everything away, but there was a big twist and we ended up in a really major battle for about half of the final session. And I think what Will intended when he was putting all of this together was to give us that last bit of story, the story twist that no one saw coming, the momentary like gasp moment which comes in the third act when all the pieces fall into place, when you've solved the puzzle, you've solved the mystery, and now here your heroes are at the end of their quest, at the end of their journey, and the last bit of their journey is defeating the big bad. That is kind of the idea at the end of campaign, is you're probably defeating something or saving the world or making other people's lives better through your adventures and misadventures. So we were presented with a tough situation, and it was kind of a catch-22, and I actually really liked it. So we had to defeat the big bad, but she had all of these elemental focused gems that she transformed into elementals, and so we had two options. Either we could figure out how to return them to their gem form, or we could destroy them. And now the problem was that the gems themselves were what made the planet, the world that we were in. They provided water. The water gem provided water to the major river in the continent. The air gem kept the air, like there was a tie-in everywhere. And so my character was very focused on getting the water gem back because they were Goran, and all the trees in the forest were gonna die, the elves were gonna die. It was gonna be a bad situation if we didn't get the water back to the river, you know, kind of a thing you want to do. So while we defeated the bad guy, we also ended up destroying all of the focus gems. And so in some ways the campaign ended in kind of disarray because we didn't win. I mean, we won. The bad guy was defeated. We lost one of our members during the middle of the battle, and that sucked because there was no way to bring him back. And then finally she set off a self-destruct, and we all thought that it was going to be the end of the world, and our water ganassi, played by Emily, sacrificed herself in order to stop the explosion, not realizing that it was just going to destroy the city and not destroy the whole world. So she saved the Dwarven city, but yeah, it was kind of a Pyrrhic victory in a way. And I know I wrote about it on Instagram, and I've been thinking more and more about it this week. It was that, like, that push and pull, that tug of, is there really true victory at the end, or is it sort of laced with this undercurrent of disappointment? And I think the thing that Will did that was really great is that he really played with that dichotomy, and I think it made the story more interesting, and it definitely has made me think about it more after the fact. If we had just won and everything had been great, it would have still been a great campaign. Don't get me wrong. However, being able to look at it and think about the choices that we made makes me realize that we're going to have even more fun during the main campaign, because I now kind of understand Will a little bit better and the way that he's going to potentially be building stories. I don't want to say that because then he's going to be like, well, no, I'm going to trick you. But yeah, it was really, really interesting, and I've been thinking about it a lot this week. So his way of closing that final chapter was to actually leave it with not quite the happy ending that everybody wanted, and that's good. And then afterwards he gave us a postmortem. He told us sort of the things that he was thinking about and how this is going to affect the world. When we play in his full campaign, which starts next year, it'll be about 1,000 years in the future after the events that we just experienced. So the things that happen with the lack of water, the forest turns into a desert, the elves end up having to sacrifice themselves in order to create an oasis to help the final ancestor tree survive. The Gorons like uproot literally and plant seedlings elsewhere. People adapt, they survive, but it has a dramatic effect on the world as a whole, and I really like that. I like how the things that you do in a game affect the world around you, and that's something I've been thinking about a lot in my campaign, because we are getting towards the end of the first major story arc. Now we're almost at a year that we've been playing this game, and I don't know that we're gonna finish in the next 2 sessions, next 3 sessions, but we're starting to get towards the end. And so I've been really thinking about how I want to position the next story arc. I've started to think about it. I've started to just consider how I tie everything up, but also keep it open-ended, because this campaign is gonna keep going. The world is still growing, and the players in the game are still exploring. Their characters are still little in comparison. They're still learning, and so while this is their first task, it is not the end of their story by any means, but it'll be their first, hopefully, major victory. Hopefully there won't be any deaths. Hopefully no one will have to create a new character, but it might happen. And so how will the things that they do affect the world around them? I think that is going to be really interesting to see it play out, because obviously I have opinions about how I want it to go. I have plans in place about different things that could happen, and things are on a timeline. So I know where the story is going. If they don't get there by that point, maybe there's nothing to do. I don't know. We have to find out. So I still love the collaborative storytelling aspect, which is the same thing that was happening in Will's campaign, is the things that we as the players did would affect what's going to happen in his main campaign 1,000 years in the future. If we had been able to rescue the water elemental focus gem and restore the river, then the elves and the forest would still be there. The Gorons wouldn't have had to replant their seedlings elsewhere. Like, it would have had a dramatic effect on the world around them. So just keeping all of that in mind. So while it is kind of the end of a story, there's a capstone, there's that moment of like, and then they rode off into the sunset. The sunset, there's still stuff going on in the sunset. There's still more things to do. And I think the open-endedness of role-playing games makes it so that these closing chapters just lead to new adventures instead of sort of being the end. Unless you're in a situation like Critical Role where you make it all the way to level 20 and then you have to kind of cap it because it just doesn't go any further than that. You can keep playing God level, sure, but there comes a point where you're like, okay, we should probably like start over. We can pull these characters back out if we want to, but we should probably start over. So unless the character dies, unless you hit level 20, technically you can keep playing forever. You could just slow your leveling. I don't know. But for something like Critical Role that ended after level 20, it gives you the opportunity to build new characters. Or if your character dies, it gives you an opportunity to build new characters and sort of test out, if you're playing within the same world, a whole new scenario, a whole new backstory. You get to explore new things in a new place in a new way than you had before. And perhaps as a player, your perspective is different. Now for the DM, that's gonna give you a really interesting opportunity. So let's say you have a player death. It gives you an interesting opportunity to incorporate someone new into the game. So being able to add a new player or character into the game is always fun. Being able to swap people out is really fun. So it's never an end. It's always an opportunity. It's always a beginning. And I think that's sort of what I'm trying to get at today, is that while I'm starting to think about how things are going to come to a close, it's also about how things are going to come open again. And so that has really been on the back of my mind. So yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, how many games have you guys had where you've actually finished or come to an end of a major story arc and been super excited about it? Have you won D&D before? Have you made it that far? Have you gotten to a level 20 character? These are all things I have yet to do, and I'm super excited about them because they're gonna be really fun. I am really looking forward to the end of my homebrew first story arc, because this is a story that has been in my head since last May, so a year in the works, and it really has come to life with my players. And I know that Eric talked about it on What's Up Wednesday, that it felt really weird having not played for 6 weeks, and I think we all just sort of had to figure out the flow again. The flow wasn't there. The flow wasn't there, but we got back to it. That was the thing. By the time the game ended, everyone was like, oh right, that's what this is like. This is actually really fun. We really like this. And there was just, unfortunately, a relearning curve that happened because it had been so long since we played. So we're playing again in a couple weeks, and I'm already prepared because they RP'd for like 4 hours, so I'm good. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on in D&D world for us right now. Any thoughts, any comments, always add them below, or tweet at me, or contact me however you want. I'm always happy to talk about role-playing games, about Dungeons and Dragons. It's my favorite, it's my thing. Hope you guys have all had a wonderful day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, support us on Patreon if you are so inclined. And I think I will talk to you guys next time. See you on the next adventure. Bye guys.